Hello, I'm Dale Yurton, and welcome to our study on the art of teaching. This is actually lesson number 4 in this series. Again, if you have not listened to the preceding lessons, please do so because this series will build. We started out talking about the teacher, the call of God on your life, and we're just asking, why am I here? The second lesson, we dealt with the students. Why are they here? And then in the third lesson, we dealt with the classroom, the lecture, the lesson itself. What do I do with them? In this fourth lesson, I want to focus on the question, how am I doing? Now, I'm coming all the way back full circle to the teacher again. And we're going to focus on how the teacher can continue to improve the rest of their life with their teaching skills. Let me begin by asking you a simple question. Nothing tricky about this, but what is one of the worst sins a teacher can commit? Now think just a moment, what would you say? What is one of the worst sins a teacher can commit? I think it's making your classroom boring. I think the same thing for sermons from preachers, making the sermon boring. It's a misrepresentation. You are supposed to be representing God and God's Word, God's truth. And there's nothing about that. God and His creation are not boring. Teachers can be boring. In fact, many of them have the reputation for that. What a terrible reputation, especially if you're teaching God's Word. God is not boring. And so I believe it is one of the number one sins that teachers commit. It's making their classroom boring. Now, why does this happen? It's simple, my friend. Bored teachers have boring classes. And for too many teachers, the fire, the passion for teaching has gone out. Oh, they're still there, but they're kind of like the man that said, I'm semi-retired. I still show up, I just don't do anything. And that's the way some teachers are. They don't teach you anything. I've seen students that go to a class not expecting to learn one thing. What a waste of time. So don't be a boring teacher. How can we keep from becoming boring? I'm going to share with you a tool that I learned 40 to 50 years ago that has kept me growing, kept the fire, the passion burning within me for all these many years. I've been teaching and preaching the Word of God for well over 60 years now, and the fire still burns. Here's the tool that I learned. I will call it the tool of evaluation. Let me repeat that again. That's a big word. The tool of evaluation. I'm going to teach you how to use this tool to keep your mind alert, to keep you growing, to keep you being a good teacher, not a boring teacher. There's actually 5 points that I want to give you about evaluation. Here's point number 1. Evaluation keeps us growing as teachers. See, that's really what happens is many teachers are teaching the same material year after year, and they just stop learning anything new. They stop growing in their minds, in their knowledge, and that's a dangerous thing. It's dangerous because when you stop growing, you start dying. And that's not what we want to be. God is not the God of the dead. He's the God of the living. And so God help us to learn how to use evaluation. See, if the teacher isn't excited about learning, no one else will be either. Now, I've taught that to pastors all over the world. If the preacher's not excited about the message, Nobody else will be. And that is so true. It's true also of the teacher. So you've got to be excited. How can you be excited? You've got to continually be learning new things. Learning things that you never knew before. Now, don't tell me that you know it all. That's not true. That's not true at all. The truth is, the more I learn, the more I discover that I don't know. We are all ignorant in certain areas of our life, and everything that we learned is built upon something we already know. So the teacher is in a prime location to continually be learning. How do we do it? Evaluation. Evaluation. Evaluation turns everything into a learning experience. I had one of the greatest father-in-laws that any man has ever had. Wonderful man, wonderful Christian. He wasn't a preacher, but he was a smart man. He went to work for a gas company digging ditches, and he worked his way up through that company until he was over all the construction of the company. Construction superintendent, the number 3 man in the whole company. And he had a very limited education. Oh, but he didn't let that stop him. He used what he knew to help him keep learning. And I learned this phrase from him. I cannot tell you how many times over the years before he died that I heard him say, well, let's just chalk that one up for an education. In other words, he learned one more thing that wouldn't work. They say of Thomas Edison that created the electric light bulb, that Thomas Edison tried over 500 different things before he discovered an element that would work in his light bulb that would burn but not burn up. And every time someone would say, my, 500 failures? Oh, no, it was not a failure, he would say. I just found another thing that wouldn't work. So this is what evaluation does for us. It takes whatever we experienced and improves it. We keep growing. We keep learning more and more because of evaluation. So learn to look at evaluation as a tool that helps us keep learning. Oh, that's why I appreciate it so much. Now here's the second thing that I would ask concerning evaluation. Why are we afraid of evaluation? What is it that we're so afraid of it? We don't want anybody to ask us, how did your class go? Did you do a good job as a teacher? We don't want anyone to come and sit in our class and evaluate the way that we're doing. The reason we don't like evaluation is we don't like tests. Now that's human nature. I'm the same way. Everyone's that way. We don't like the test. Oh, there's a lot of students, they wouldn't mind going to school if there were no test. But we're looking at test the wrong way. We're looking at test as something painful, something made to make me look bad. That's not the purpose of the test. No, we're looking at the test the wrong way. The truth is, we would learn very little if it were not for test. If there wasn't any test in life, we wouldn't pay attention. See, it's the test of life which cause us to take our assignments seriously. Now, this simply shows a weakness of human nature is that if we can, we don't like study. If we can, we don't like work. If we can, we would rather play. We would rather eat ice cream than to eat a steak. That's just human nature, to look for the easiest way. But that's not a good way to live. No, because you're not learning anything. That means you will continue to repeat the mistakes that you made yesterday. What a waste of life. And so how can we take and develop evaluation so it becomes a tool that serves us, not something we resist and try to get away from that. Use evaluation as a tool for learning. It's the third thing I want to share with you. These are 3 good evaluation questions I learned probably 40 years ago. And I've learned to use them in every instance since. How to take everything and turn it into a learning experience. How that I can do a better job the next time because I learned something. Here's the first question. What is the best thing that happened in class? In a classroom setting, there's always going to be a good moment that's going to happen. Hopefully there will be more than just one. You'll have to choose among them, but at least one good thing is going to be happening. Somebody, they learned something they never knew before. Somebody got excited about discovering a truth, and somebody was able to take what they know and use it as a theory, a stepping stone to find another truth. A good thing that happened. Take the time to write down the good thing or share it with a friend and say, you won't believe what happened in my class today, and share with them what happened, that good moment. And there's always going to be one. So look for the best thing that happened during the class. Then the second question is, what is the worst thing that happened? Now, I know we don't like to talk about that one, but the truth is there's always negative things that's going to happen. Almost every class will have at least one negative experience. Somebody's going to say something they shouldn't have said, or somebody's going to come up with a terrible answer to a question. Somebody's going to get upset. I mean, there's always going to be a negative. So not only do you ask what is the best thing that happened, ask the second question, what's the worst thing that happens? Now, it's very important that we ask them and start with the good. That's a good starter, but then go to the negative and talk about that. What was the negative thing that happened in this classroom? What was something that it really wasn't good? And that brings us to the third question. The third question is, what could we have done that would have made it better? See, there's your learning experience. There's where evaluation becomes profitable for you. It will help you improve because you have learned something through this experience, whether it's good or whether it's bad. You've learned something. If we'd have done this, it would have made it better. So what you're doing, you're taking everything you experience in life. You're taking all of it and you're turning it into an educational experience. You are learning, you are growing, you are increasing in your skills as a teacher. I remember the story that's so long ago about the teacher that had taught in the school for 14 years, and they had continued in the same position. They had not advanced. They never become a superintendent or a principal. They just still in their classroom. A new teacher was hired, and the teacher was there 2 or 3 years, and then they advanced this teacher and put them over the one that had been there 14 years. And this one that had the 14 years of teaching, they came and they complained. This is not right. It's not fair. I've been teaching for 14 years. I have 14 years experience, and you took someone with 3 years experience and you advanced them beyond me. That's not right. And the superintendent said, I'm very sorry that you feel this way, but it's not true what you're saying. You do not have 14 years of experience. You have 1 year of experience 14 times. Now that's what evaluation will save you from. It will save you from repeating the past. You take everything and you turn it into a learning experience. What could we have done that would have made it better? And if you do that continually, it just becomes a part of your lifestyle, and you really begin to develop your skills into an excellent teacher because you have used evaluation to help you to improve. So look at evaluation as a tool that keeps us improving in our teaching skills. Now here's the fourth thing I want to share with you concerning evaluation. Learn to recognize the benefits of evaluation. Remember when I talked about tests and that we don't like tests? The reason we don't like tests is simply because it requires something of us. We don't just have to show up and sit in a classroom, but now, did you learn the material? Are you paying attention? Are you growing in knowledge? Not only do the students need to have a test, teachers need to have tests as well. So the first thing I see evaluation helps us do is face our fears. What are you afraid of? What is it that holds you back? Oh, it's a good question. What would you do if you were not afraid? That's a good question. Face your fears, and we all have them. Now, in facing your fears and the things that can be negative, can even be painful at times, it helps us to grow. So what we need to do next is develop a plan for evaluation. Develop your own plan. See, that's basically what education is about. Education's not about getting a diploma or a degree. Education is about learning how to learn. It sets you on that course, that journey, that the rest of your life you will be learning because you have developed a plan. Develop a plan for evaluation. See, one of our goals is that our students should be learning new information they could put into practice. And of course, life is moving, education is changing. Some of the big changes I've seen in my lifetime is how that we use multimedia production now for education. We didn't have that when I was a boy. When the COVID pandemic came, it changed education from being in person to becoming online. And we'll always have a combination of that the rest of our lives. It's because life is changing. It's going somewhere. And unless we are learning new techniques and we can help our students put this information into practice, we're wasting their time. Another thing I would say is help promote leadership training for your church. Now, by saying leadership, I'm talking about whoever is the authority that's over you. If you have someone, for instance, a Christian education director, you have someone that's placed over the learning experience, then go to them and talk to them. If not, go to your pastor. Ask your pastor what you can do to promote teacher training. Now, after he gets over his shock and is able to talk, just offer yourself to him and say, what can I do? I know that we got some good teachers, but I believe we can do better. We can learn things that will help us to have a better school of the Bible school, Sunday school, whatever you want to call it. You need to name this and have a plan where the teacher is learning and not just the student. So help to develop an evaluation plan for the teachers in your church. Now, I know that's going to scare some teachers, and you may even have a few teachers that quit. Yes, I'm telling you the truth, and I'm telling you from experience. But the truth is, if they're not excited about learning, why should their students be? If they're bored with their class and they're just doing it out of duty, and feel like they're serving God by doing something that is miserable for them and every student in their class, you're doing wrong. As a leader, we need to develop plans, develop evaluation, how we can help the teachers become better teachers. Give them a good book to read on being a better teacher, and there's many, many good books about that. If you don't have one, start asking from other teachers and ask them if they've read anything that helped them to be a better teacher. Or another thing you can do is look at a good video on how to become a better teacher. There's a lot of teaching material now that's in video format. You can use it even on your smartphones. You can watch and learn things that will help you to be a better teacher. And then I give you a picture here, my website. Just go on your computer, daleyurton.com, daleyurton.com. And that website is filled with videos that you can watch that will help you to become a better teacher, a better leader. There's excellent leadership training on this website, daleyurton.com. And there's actually hundreds of videos on teaching, videos on leading, videos on prayer. There's just so many different resources. I've taken everything that I've learned in these 60-some years of preaching, and I've tried to put it on video and put it on the web. I did that for you. I want to share what I know with you so that you can be a better teacher. Now, if it's possible, you're visiting a church, you're out of town, you're in a different location, go to somebody's class. Go look for a good teacher. Try to find a good class, or ask who is a good teacher in the area. Go sit in on their class and just watch and learn. Observe the way they do it. And you will learn so many things just by being in a good class. Seek out good teachers. Ask them ways they can improve a class, how that you can improve your class. And it's amazing the things that you can learn from others if you just ask them some good questions. I would recommend also that you attend a leadership conference annually. Go to at least one. A good leadership conference that's teaching you leadership principles, because those principles will apply to your classroom. Now, that's how we develop a good plan that keeps us growing. The fifth point I want to share with you is what I'm going to call make evaluation a positive experience. I want to close with this thought: making evaluation a positive experience. Think of evaluation as a friend, not an enemy. Think of it something that you like. Now, here's what you need to develop. And as you practice this, I know it's become just a part of my life now. Be bold enough to try something new. I've seen so many people, their attitude is get it right and then leave it alone. Oh, but the problem with that is life is a moving target. It continues to move on, and if we're not learning new things, then we're soon going to be outdated in our teaching methods. So be bold enough to try something new. Second point, there is no growth without discipline. And I think this is one of the things that many teachers fear. They fear discipline. One of the things that you can do that will help you is make yourself accountable. Have a good friend. Ask them to sit in on your class and then evaluate you. Oh yes, don't get angry, don't get upset. They're just pointing out to you things that they see that you're doing that you probably don't even recognize that you're doing. You don't realize it. Discipline yourself. Listen to their advice. Take their advice. Keep learning and growing. See, what I'm trying to do for you is to help you as the teacher to become the number one student in the class. I'm trying to help you have a class that is not boring, where people, they stay awake, they stay alert because they never know what's going to happen next. And they become excited. But they only do that if you set the example. See, you teach them by your own example. You should be the number one student in the class. I recognize that in my own life. And as I age and my body changes, I have to make changes. I refuse to have a boring class. I refuse to preach boring sermons. That's a disgrace to God. That's a shame to the church. Never let it be said about us that we have a boring class. See, evaluation is a good key for learning. And if we properly use it, we take this and see it as to our advantage and use it as a learning experience, then we will keep growing. If we keep growing, those around us keep growing. That's the reason I've seen that churches die. It's not because they have bad people. No, they're just people. But they make bad decisions. And soon they've got a dying church because they have made bad decisions. Don't permit that to be said. Let it be said of your church, oh, I love to go to that church. It's so full of life. It's just, worship is a wonderful experience. That's the way it ought to be. Because God is not a God of the dead. God is a God of the living. So learn to take this simple little tool, evaluation, and put it to your advantage to keep you growing so that to the end of your life, you can be a productive Christian. You can be, as the psalmist said, even in time of old age, they shall bring forth fruit.